Finished up one side, and I am pretty happy with the foot that I had created in the last video, and I made that. That's the one I was using, and it hooked on back there through this part, and it was fine. And I had some people say, well, now I just need to find one of those gizmos that you use to make it with. And I honestly, it was something that was in the drawer of the cabinet here, so I wouldn't know where to find one. So I made a different one, and that was using the metal part, the top part of one of these binder clips, and you loosen this screw and slide it on from the back, and then you just need to do a little bit of bending. I have used a pair of needle nose pliers to bend it a little bit down, and get it so it's right. And the way that you want to do it is, we'll take the quilt out. You want to put your foot down, and you just want to have a little bit of space where the wires aren't touching. And the reason this is a good choice is because it's so much thicker and stronger than a paper clip, which is what I tried a long time ago, and it just kept bending on me. This seems like it's going to be pretty good because it's really solid. You have to really work at getting it bent, so it shouldn't be too floppy, and anyway, I think it's going to work fine. So I have my sliding mat in here, this Teflon slider mat. It's getting kind of worn out, but it still works. I just bought a new one, so I'll have to show you that at some point. But anyway, it's got a little bit of a stickiness to it. It's not, super sticky, but that keeps it from sliding around, and it helps your fabric to slide. So let's put in another the only problem with this machine is that in order to see, I need to have this clip-on light, and it ends up, the way I hook it onto the machine, it goes right where I'd rather have the fabric slide off the back, but it's fine. Pull up the bottom thread, and get to quilting. See, it works pretty well. I'm getting a decent stitch, and you'll want to, as you're starting, you'll want to look at the back and see how your stitches look there. Make sure they're not coming out strange, and adjust your tension as needed. I am going to just turn this up a touch. And the big secret, as always, is regulating the speed combination. That is the speed of your feet and the speed of your hands, so that you're getting consistent stitches. And again, this one behaves a little differently than my Singers do. This is a white rotary, and the White Company was in business for a really long time. They were one of the big sewing machine manufacturers, and unlike Singer, White made machines for several other companies as well. Basically, if you had a company that wanted a machine to sell, White would make one of their machines and put your name on it. And that was part of their business model. And so you may find tons and tons of different named machines that are really nothing more than a White machine with somebody else's label on it. And the biggest one that they did that for was Sears. And they had the contract to make the machines for Sears for many years. So lots of Sears Kenmore machines from earlier on were basically a white rotary machine with the Kenmore label on it. They took the same feet attachments, the same bobbin case, the same bobbins. So those are really good machines as well. Because again, they were made by the same company. White's technology really never changed. Their outward appearance of the machine changed a bit over the years. They had different looks to them, but the basic operation remained very much the same, and unfortunately that's what really led, I think, to their demise, is that they weren't keeping up with some of the other companies. The European companies started developing much more advanced stuff. They had zigzags, they had machines that would do decorative stitches with hands, and free arms, and all that stuff started with the European designed machines, Switzerland types, Elma and Half, and some of the German companies. And eventually Singer tried to catch up on that, and they did start introducing them, but pretty much White stayed with straight stitch only, same basic style, and they just tried to catch up too late. And what happened was, in the end, they were having their machines made by overseas companies and putting their name on them so that they could include some of the fancier features in their line. And Sears, their main supplier, started asking for, for some of these better features. And so White started subcontracting so that they could supply Sears with the zigzag machines and the machines that make fancy stitches, etc. And Sears decided to cut out the middleman. They'd just go and get them from the manufacturers themselves rather than going through White. And eventually that White losing the Sears contract is pretty much what made them one of the last sewing machine companies that was in the United States. It made them go under. Anyway, a little bit of history is always kind of fun. But for what it is, a basic straight stitch machine, these Whites are great. And I don't know if you can hear it as well, but it's really a smooth operator. It runs smoothly, and it's pretty quiet if it's tuned up in oil. it's just really easy to sew on. You need to remember that it runs the opposite direction of the singer. That means that the hand wheel turns away from you, not towards you when you're stitching. But once you get used to that, the bobbin winds or loads differently. It's got a different style bobbin case, but it's easy to figure out. And it's really a great machine. I have, I don't know, 30, 40, yeah, probably at least 40 machines. And this is my third white, and I'm just now starting to realize how much I really like them. Let me see if I can remember where I put them. This is what a white bobbin looks like. It's much, it's pretty good sized diameter, and they're pretty thick, so these hold a lot of thread. That's one of the great advantages to this machine. There are companies that still produce these because these, you know, were, as I said, the basic bobbin that was used in all the white machines that were made from, you know, from early 1900 on. It was the same bobbin, and they were also the same bobbins used in all the Kenmores. So there's still a lot of machines out there that take that kind of bobbin. So you can still find new ones. What I find with the new ones is they don't fit as well. And what I mean by that is the hole in the middle is a little bit different in size, just enough to make it slip on the bobbin winder when you're winding a bobbin. So you may have to fiddle around a little bit to get a decent winding on your bobbin if you don't have one of the originals, but that's not a big deal. It's easy enough to do. What you can do is just put a little piece of tape around the end of the winder before you put the bobbin on. That'll help keep it from slipping. And the other, I've done another video on a different white machine where I showed how I was using it for embroidery. And this works great for free motion embroidery. So you can certainly use it for that. Now, another video that I did, I also had one of my other white machines, and I took the and I was trying to use it for free motion quilting, and so what I did was I took the presser bar out and replaced it with one that was from a Sears machine, or a Singer machine, so that I could put a regular commercial free motion quilting foot on it. And it worked, but it was imperfect. So that's why I'm trying this out. The reason that it was imperfect is because the way these machines are put together, there is a bigger space between the needle and the presser bar. And that bigger space, I had a hard time finding a foot where the needle wouldn't hit the foot. I don't have to worry about it with this because I've left the front wide open, and that also makes it really nice because now I can see what I'm doing much better. I don't have a foot in the way, and that's a big advantage when you're trying to do any kind of real detailed quilting, when you have a lot of space to see where your stitching is, and you're, especially if you're trying to do quilting over something else. I'm using a real dark green thread today because I wanted this to really show up. It's the darker the thread and the lighter the fabric, or the more contrast between thread and fabric, the more your mistakes show. So it's kind of risky to do a real dark thread and a real light fabric, but because you really can see where you've gone wrong. But it works good for showing on the video. If you're new to it, though, I would recommend using matching thread or close to matching, because again, your mistakes won't show nearly as much. Anyway, you get the idea. It's just a different foot, but other than that, it really the basic operation is the same. I have to always remind myself until I get really used to it that I have to turn that hand wheel the other direction when I start. But if you have not tried one of these Teflon sliding mats for your machine quilting, I would tell you that it's worth the investment. It really makes this fabric move a lot better. And one thing that I guess I didn't mention, these old machines did not have droppable feed dogs. So my feed dogs are up and operational right now, but because I've got this sliding mat, and because I made sure the foot is just hovering right at the top of the fabric, I'm not having any drag on the fabric, and it makes the quilting really pretty easy. And you can see in some areas I get going pretty slow, and to me that's one of the advantages of operating a treadle instead of the electric machines, is that it's easier for me to get real slow stitching. And like anything else, I'm sure it's a matter of practice. I could probably achieve that same speed on an electric machine. But it seems like all the ones that I have, mine are all vintage, they have two speeds, 100 miles an hour and stop. So I have a harder time getting a real accurate speed regulation on some of those older machines, which is why I like the treadle. Well, a couple of times, a couple of people have asked me, what about stopping and starting, and what do you do with the thread? If I'm good and plan it out well, I only have to stop when I run out of bobbin. So I do a continuous line of stitching and never ever have to stop. So I just have threads to tie off and hide at the beginning and the end of a bobbin. So it's only on one of these, it may be 4 times with this big bobbin that's in this machine. And what you can do, what I sometimes do, is thread these onto a needle and then slide them into the fabric to bury it in between the layers. If it's an area where I've stitched over many times, like this will be, I will probably just cut it off, because it will have been stitched over itself a couple of times, and it won't come undone. So it depends on what you've done on the particular project. But oops, now I said all that and I just broke the thread. So I guess that's a good time to stop. Anyway, That's free motion quilting on a white rotary treadle with a homemade foot, and I think you'll enjoy it. Happy quilting.